I've got Mark Skaife,
Skaife.
my good friend
Jess.
from Supercars, standing by. How are you going? There's no NRL, there's no AFL, there's no car racing, and all your favourite restaurants in Melbourne are closed. Are you okay?
Oh, that's cruel. I know you've got me. Even the pubs are shut, so I'm absolutely cooked. Yeah, look, it's interesting times, isn't it? I mean, I still can't get over when you and I were sitting there with Neil Crompton on the desk before the Melbourne Grand Prix, and we were live 10 o'clock in the morning right up until that 11:30 announcement, people queuing outside to get in through the gates. And on that morning, we just didn't know what was about to unfold. And pretty much the first massive sporting event was cancelled that morning for us. And it was just unprecedented. We were blown away, weren't we?
It is. When you think back over what's happened the last 2 weeks, even a week ago, Braith and I were here in the studio getting ready to do the KFC Sunday ticket. We had rugby league on our screens, and that afternoon, obviously, we heard that the AFL had been called off, and then the NRL was to follow suit. How are your beautiful girls travelling, having you at home, not being able to get rid of you at all?
That's a very good point, Jess. They're a bit stir crazy. I mean, one of the things that's funny, and I suppose in troubled times and the sort of issues that we've got going on around us, is what keeps us sane. And you know, for so many kids, they miss out on all that social interaction. You know, school, for instance, being stuck here with mum and dad's a totally different thing. And I know you text me and said you've had one afternoon of homeschooling and you quit, Jess.
Did you throw the towel in?
Hard.
It is hard.
Give the teachers all the money they deserve.
Oh, they do.
Oh, my God. Can you imagine? Like, I've only got one. Can you imagine having 30 of them?
I thought you were more resilient than that, Jessica.
Working with you blokes, I've had to be, haven't I?
How have you been keeping busy, Skaife, yourself?
Look, we've got a fair bit of other work going on at the same time, Brace, but really, I mean, it's for so many situations. I don't know about you guys, but I thought it was just fantastic for the AFL and the NRL to kick off, and I thought it was really good to get it going. Although no crowds and the whole thing was so different, but I love the sounds of the game. I love the way that the game was played, the physicality, the gamesmanship. I mean, if you two blokes were playing, we'd hear all your jibes to whoever else you were playing.
Lucky it's not, my friend.
Yeah. But I really thought it was really interesting. There was stuff that you wouldn't normally hear.
Yeah.
And although it's strange not to have the crowd there, it was a real insight into the game, and I really loved it. But then obviously that's been stopped, and now we're in a world of E-Series racing and a heap of different things that are going on. So part of the whole thing for Supercars is, when can we recommence? How do we do it? Are they 2-day race meetings, or how do we from a concise perspective, put the series together at the end of the year? So it's going to be tough for everybody.
Sean Seamer, Supercars CEO, has come out and said, Skaife, regardless of when we get going, they're confident they'll be able to put a full year together, even if we have to run into January next year. That's going to put some pressure on the teams to be back-to-back like that. Are you expecting that we'll see some changes to the formats in order to be able to put a full season together? And what would you like to see as the first event coming back? I mean, do we try and kick off with Bathurst if we can? Is that the most important one to uphold?
Oh, look, I think Bathurst is up there in that sort of special zone, Jess, that it's our number one event, isn't it? I'd like to see us kick off before that. I mean, there's a lot of rumour around all sport as to how that time works and whether we can actually get back to having more than 500 people based on the mass gathering guidelines. So I don't really know what's going to happen in terms of our first event. I'm thinking that late July, early August is sort of the earliest part. And if we could do that, we could probably put some local meetings together and run them back to back as 2-day race meetings. And I think that would be the smart way to get going. Remembering what Sean said also is that because Supercars promote the 12-hour in early February, we could run right through Christmas and actually finish our year off at Bathurst for another special event. So I think there's a lot to be said for this. There's a lot that will, as the boys have been talking about this morning, and so many things around rugby league and AFL, there's a lot to be said for what the sport looks like off the back of it. Some of the things that you've been liking or wanting to trial, you can probably do. Absolutely. And as a consequence of that, let's see what happens.
Yes, Gabe, there's been a lot of talk about the NRL and the financial position that we find ourselves in. What about motorsport? How are you guys situated in terms of finances?
Yeah, look, it's a tough one, Braith. I mean, all the teams at the moment have basically put staff on mandatory leave. Some teams that are more affluent than others have been able to keep on paying people. Our sport's almost non-seasonal, so even giving people their entitlements in terms of holidays and annual leave, for instance, is hard for us anyway. So this little period now, we normally have a thing called sort of a summer break or some style of break in the middle of the year. And as a consequence, I'm sure a lot of teams are using that up to be able to make those entitlements work. Your point about the economy of it is very hard. I mean, Formula One's the same. I mean, people are basically saying in Formula One that they're not going to get going until Canada later in the year. So that's extraordinary to miss Monaco, for instance, in Formula One. And so much of what's going on in the industry is just it's unheard of. We're in very much uncertain times, and we've got to try to get through the end of it altogether.
What about your beloved Seagulls, Skaife? Had a pretty good start of the year. Pretty tough run, to be honest, facing obviously the Melbourne Storm first up at home, and then running into the reigning premiers, which they knocked over. You must have been pleased with that.
Oh, they were great, weren't they? Now, Mick, I reckon that was a really good thing that you've rolled out this morning about being a long-time Manly fan. That's cool. But also great to have Spud on this morning. How about that? My God, that's rivalry at its best, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
But look, your point's 100%. There's certain business models. So, obviously the Manly ownership, for instance, the owners have to tip money in each year. As a consequence of that, does that continue? How does it continue on? What's the club look like off the back of this? There's other clubs, and I reckon what would be hurting, and it's hurting some of the businesses within Supercars, is that teams that are attached to other businesses are almost hurt worse. If you're a leagues club and you can't fund your rugby league department, then you're in more trouble than you are if you're just a specific racing team and being able to put people off. So, it's unheralded. We just haven't seen it before.
We saw that a couple of days ago with the transparency from Scott Penn, who's stuck over in the lockdown in New York, but gave the club and the players and the coaching staff reassurance that they're with them for the long haul, which I thought was a great sign of leadership in tough times.
Who's your favourite player, Skaife, of the modern era for Manly, or maybe in years gone by as well?
Bob Fulton was my absolute superstar hero as a young bloke. I played for Wyong. Hey, the boys have got this. Hey, you like this? 2 seconds. Wyong
Rouge.
You the other day. Look at this.
The Rouge.
Wyong Rouge.
Look at that.
See?
That's
How good is that?
That's great.
Wyong out of the boy, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, that's how my nose got like this. I wasn't very good at it, but that's how it happened.
Didn't go down to Woy Woy and see Santa, did you?
I've never been to Double Woy, mate. Don't worry about that. Only go down there to pitch money from ATMs. But the classic is around those sorts of things, because I reckon that when you have an attachment like that, for me, Bob Fulton was the best player in the world in the time, and I just become a mad Manly fan as a consequence. But you think about through the course of the year, this year, with kids that are looking forward to seeing their favourite players play, it's a heartache. Daly Taylor, Jerry Evans for me is sort of the modern day guy that's a bit like Fulton for Manly now. But so many young people are so predisposed in terms of what their football loves or their sporting loves are, and this is it's having a big impact.
Yeah, I would have loved to. It was a disrupted year for Tom Trebojevic too. You must love him. His start, particularly his game the other day against James Tedesco at Leichhardt Oval, was as good as you'll see from a fullback.
How about that tackle?
Unbelievable.
When he put Morris into touch, it was just unbelievable. I thought he was in for all money. And then even when he pumped the ball out of, who was
Luke
it?
Keary.
Yeah, when he popped the ball out of his hand, that was extraordinary. Good stuff.
Yeah, we're missing our rugby league. I see even when we go car racing, we talk rugby league. One of the guys, Oscar Fiornotto, who does a lot of the race engineering for the commentators, is a mad Parramatta Eels fan. He loves it.
Skaife, how would you have gone with the esports stuff? We just spoke to Davey Reynolds before. He said it's going to be a laughing stock watching him go around. They're trying to pin him down for an hour a day to practice, which he said will be challenging.
He's already been disqualified from the practice because he was driving backwards on the track. Which has come as no surprise to any of us.
Well, see, boys, I've been saying for years that we've sanitised the racing too much, right? All the rules around not being able to spear people off the road and do all the stuff that's been, part of the rivalry and the toughness of our sport. It's been sanitised too much, and I'd argue most sports the same thing. So then with this thing, Davey said, I heard him say earlier that he can fire blokes off the road and do all that. That'll be great. You can just press reset and go again.
But we are in a really unique position, talking about all of the fans around Australia who are missing their sport, who don't get to see their superstars. For Supercars, this is such a great way for the category to be able to engage with their fans. You're not going to have a wild card in it at all? You got the sim set up at home?
I wouldn't think so, Jess. I'll be busy having a sneaky beer.
We could drink drive, Mark. You could.
Yeah, you know what? Do that, mate. Exactly. Hey, what about the kids, Jess? I showed you a couple of things through the week, and we've had a lot of funny texts going. What do they call those? Are they memes or what are they? What are those things called?
Memes.
Yeah.
You are the king of memes. My phone lights up all day. Skaife has managed to collect every single meme going around about whether it's coronavirus or champagne, you name it. He's your go-to guy.
What have you got, Skaife? You got one for us?
I've got plenty, but what about that one I said? Well, there's a lot that I can't send you, Jess, or we can't roll out today. What about the Carlsberg virus one that I sent you the other day? It's a lot worse than coronavirus.
I'll show you later. I don't think that's appropriate for morning
you'll
time.
get it later on. It's very good.
Have you had a bit of TikToking going on in your house?
Yes, have a look at this. Have you got it, Jess?
Oh, no, we don't have it queued up, but we'll try and get it a little later to show you. But I know that. Have you been roped into that yet?
No, are you kidding me?
I'm with you, Skaife.
Yeah, I'm with you too.
I'd say that every time. Oh, well,
Absolutely not. No way.
But the girls, and I'll see if they can do a sneaky TikTok with Dad and we'll stitch you up.
Yeah, well, that would be a stitch up. Mimi did a ripper one the other day because she was bored in the house. But seriously, for the kids, it's so hard. They're just missing each other. I reckon the thing that's come out of this as one of the only victors are the pets. Our dog's Senna, right? He's 11. He's a bit old and grumpy like me these days, but he's had more attention in the last week than he's had in his life.
Loving it.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
Well, we're looking forward to the esports series on Fox Sports kicking off on the 8th of April. I'm sure we'll be crossing to you, Skaife, to get some commentary on that as it all unfolds. But all the very best to you and your beautiful family down there. I'm wishing them the greatest of luck to get through this period with you stuck at home.
Enjoy your time away from Jess too. I know you're missing.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Skaife. Have a great weekend. Mark Skaife joining us there live from